doing something new today. Something I haven't done before. Most of my costumes, I go for as screen accurate as possible. Even the anime stuff that I do, I try and make it as it's supposed to be. I've never really done a custom anything before. This is uncharted territory for me. Like I said, custom and new is just weird. So my buddy Mark was talking about the Mandalorian mercs. The Mando mercs in Illinois, the Nexu clan, great group of people. And we're all sitting around 1C2E2 talking about it. And just got a couple thoughts flowing and things happening, and I'm thinking about things, and I'm like, I have an idea. I kind of want to try. Step one was backpack. I made a little one. Actually, I made a little one, didn't like the little one, redefined it, and made a final little one. Then I got to add a bunch of keys and things to lock everything together, but I decided to make a little helmet. Right? It's a neat looking helmet. So the first one I printed failed, but it failed right about here, and I'm like, that's too small. And I measure it, I put it on, it's way too small. I didn't like it. It was a good start. It got me to the right scale. And I made this one. And this one's pretty alright, right? I wanted to go as simple as possible. I wanted clean lines. And there's a visor that snaps onto it, right? So I printed the visor separately. Complete disaster, because it's thin, right? And it goes all around. Everything snapped weird. The back, I thought this was too wide for a test print. It's perfect. Then I printed this thing after a lot of remodeling. All of this is modeled by me. I don't want Boba Fett painted in a different style. I don't want Din Djarin with different color. I wanted to make something completely custom, something that was me, right? And this is what I printed. Hot off the press. Right now. Support still there. Look at that thing. I love how this looks. It's much smoother. Still a little bit of sanding. Since it is faceted, I am going to have to sand it a bit more. Which is fine. It's fine. I've got all of the little extra bits on the helmet already printed. Right, the little coin slot or vent in the back, the earpieces. Step one, I'm going to pull all of the filament off of this. This should be a super straightforward build for the helmet at least. At least I'm hoping. We'll find out. Alright, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to sit down, rip all the support material off. Look at that. That is awesome. I am super happy with this. Like I said, I don't often do things that are just me. And I feel like this is. There are a couple issues with the model. So when I modeled it, apparently these areas intersected, the inside and the out, and it created a void. I'm going to Bob Ross it, think it's a happy little accident. And I may make that an accent piece. When it comes out right, which doesn't always happen, but when it comes out right, oh my goodness, is it just a fantastic feeling. And I think this guy may have come out right. Alright, so here's what we got so far, right? This is what the ear piece is going to look like. It doesn't quite, it printed weird, so I may end up reprinting these, or I may put a small detail piece around it, I don't know yet. But I think that looks awesome. I'm very happy with that. The back with the vent, it's going to look like that. That is super. I love how this thing looked, and it came out great. There's this edge all the way around. It actually, like I said, I intended to have it separate. There's a little bit of a gap there, but it's nice. It's crisp. I wanted a definitive line between this piece and this piece, and it has that. And I love this double 45. And I left space so I can slide everything in, and it'll cover up this support piece. Because this, way too flexible. Even this too flexible. So I added that in there, and that has made the whole thing much more rigid. I am happy. So next step, I'm going to lightly sand the whole thing. I don't normally sand. I'm going to sand this one. I may glue this first. Either way, this is getting glued and this is getting sand, or this is getting sand and that's getting glued. It's a new technique we're going to try out today. I was watching Van Oak Props. If you're not familiar with them, absolutely go check them out as soon as you're done with this. I mean, if you're not going to be subscribed to me, you might as well subscribe to him. He does fantastic work. We're using Glazing Putty and acetone. We're going to brush it on. Real quick about Glazing Putty. Bondo is a brand. It's not a product, it's a brand. 9 times out of 10, when people say Bondo, they're referring to body filler. That's the stuff you mix in. You mix the hardener in it, and then it's used for automotive, and it's body filler. Glazing Putty is it's the red stuff that you don't have to add anything to. You just put it on and it dries. So if you are not in the US and you're looking for Bondo, you need to go in and ask for body filler. And if you're looking for this, you need to go in and ask for glazing or spot putty. I'm sure there's an equivalent. I just don't know what it's called. Now, guy over at Van Oaks, can't remember his name for the life of me right now. I should stop and look it up, but yeah, he did a mixture of glazing putty and acetone. This is just standard acetone. I have no idea what the mix rate is, and he just brushed it on, and I'm like, that's a neat concept. I need to try that. And well, that's what we're doing today. It's about how much I would normally use for this helmet. Put a little bit of acetone. Don't do this in a styrofoam cup. Acetone eats styrofoam. Find that out the hard way. I believe it's a 50-50 ratio here. That's what I'm using. My garage door open, by the way. You can probably hear it, but there's also a fan going. The whole point of this is just to thin out the glazing putty enough that it can be brushed on nice and lightly. Oh. This goes on very lightly. I'm going to assume it's going to dry quick too, because you know that's what the acetone's going to do. Oh no, this is a pretty neat technique. This is probably thinner than I could ever have put it on myself. I know I'm jumping the gun. The visor area isn't even close to being ready, but I wanted to see. Acetone is brutal, by the way. Well ventilated area. I'm still going to have to sand the heck out of it. I'm nowhere near ready for the Bondo stage of this, but like I said, I got excited. I want to see. All in all, I would say this new technique of mixing acetone and body filler, that's definitely a win. So there's a couple of spots that actually need filler. Since we've got it, might as well use it. Gonna let this dry probably overnight, and pick up sanding again in the morning. The initial sanding's done. Look at that. So everywhere that's dark, I couldn't sand, which means it's a low spot. So the dark areas need just a little more glazing putty. But It's getting there. There's just a couple areas I think need a bit of help. So I'm super impatient when it comes to this stuff, right? I always want to jump to the next stage because the next stage is awesome. And I've decided on this one. As soon as I feel I'm ready for paint, I'm handing it over to Kim. I'm gonna be like, you make sure that this is ready for paint. And I am not gonna do a thing to it until she hands it back to me and says, here you go, go ahead and primer it. Way more meticulous than me. I'm being honest, she's probably better at most of this stuff. I just do the 3D work. I'm sure every Mandalorian who's gotten to this point has been like, terracotta is kind of a cool looking color. I'm not making a terracotta warrior. Although, could make a terracotta warrior, I suppose. But that's a pull that nobody'd get. It's just sanding at this point. Sanding, a little painting. Put in the visor and walk away. Next I still have to do foam too. This is going to be at least a 3-part video, just so everybody's aware. Stupid helmet came off my printer this afternoon, and I'm like, nope, I don't need to do anything until I'm done with this now. Editing? Nah, editing can wait. There are no other projects. Alright, this is probably going to take at least a full day to dry. Means I need to be done for now. And we'll pick it up later. So we are super close to getting this thing ready for paint. I've been going back and forth, lightly sanding, putting on a new light layer, sanding, light layer, sanding, light layer. The breakaway star though has been these 3M sanding blocks. Oh my goodness, dude, huge difference, huge difference. But couple more rounds of sanding, and we should be done. It's not ready. There's still a lot of work to do, but a layer of primer is going to show us kind of what we need to see. So, layer of primer. I thought it was pretty good. Then I primed it. And every little flaw pops out, right? So there's way too much texture here. Got a couple of spots that are just really rough. I can still see squares, pixels, not pixels, polygons. Still see polygons in the helmet, so it needs to be sanded more. The whole thing just needs way more sanding. That's what we're going to do next. Just more sanding. Since I got you here, you see these spots that still have primer? These are areas that are low. When it's all smooth and even, it's going to look all smooth and even, because that's how it looks. So if I'm still seeing primer, that means these are low. Back to it. This is where we're at. Primed it, or we glazing putty the whole thing, sanded, Bondo, sanded, primed, sanded, and now we're back to the glazing putty. Full coat. And this is the point where I hand it off to Kim and let her sand it. And we will pick this back up as soon as she is done with the magic she does, which is just a lot of sanding. And priming, and sanding, and priming. She's very good. She's very patient. I'm not. So this is after about a week worth of sanding, priming, sanding, Bondo, priming, sanding. You know, right? Lots of everything. This is where we're at. It's close. You can still see facets. I don't know if it shows up on camera. You can kind of see it really good back here, right? There's a couple of things that I'm upset about. Right here, where the brow line is, since this was supposed to be a separate piece, I wasn't paying attention when I put all the model together. So it's not as pronounced as I'd like. The fact that I can still see the facets bothers me. It's a little bit of a ridge here. These are all little problems. Paint would cover most of it. I don't know if the facets would show up or not. And I think it bothers me enough that I'm... Between the faceting and this, I have a couple of options. If I want to get the helmet 100%, which I of course do, I can reprint it. Not that big of a deal. Takes like 3 days and a roll of filament. I could have another helmet. Not the end of the world. Not where I want to be. Because had I just hit Control D, Enter, I wouldn't be dealing with a lot of this sanding. But I didn't. I was in a rush. I wanted to see it. I can make a mold and make it out of resin and then just sand it, which would also work. Way more expensive than I want to do right now, though. I could keep just glazing putty, sanding, but it's not going to build up this area that I really want to build up. So that leaves me with one option. Actual body filler. This stuff is really good at, well, filling areas. And I want to fill this area right here, and I want to smooth the whole thing. So that's what we're going to use. Actual Bondo brand body filler. I normally don't use body filler. It's a bit much for what I do, but unfortunately that's where we are now. So I'm going to pull you in, show you how this works. So this is going to be the key to the whole thing. It's a flexible scraper that will allow me to round a thing, which is what I'm trying to do. I should have gloves. We're going to do this in stages. I'm going to start with the brow, let that dry, and then we're going to do the top. This stuff's much harder than the glazing putty. The glazing putty eventually cures to that stage, but you know, that one's done. So the thing about Bondo, or most body filler, it'll eventually harden on its own. The cream hardener just speeds up the process. And the more hardener you use, the faster the process. So if you want to give yourself a little time, use just a little less. If you want to speed it up a bit, do the converse. I like working in small batches just because, you know, gives me time to do everything I need to do. That should be more than enough, probably for the entire helmet. So, you know, it does not take a lot. Alright, a golf ball sized pile of Bondo needs about a pea-sized amount of hardener. You just mix it till it's all evenly colored. There's little bits of streaks, it's not that big of a deal, right? So at this point it's almost sculpting as opposed to just about anything else. So since I have about 14 seconds, okay, I got a couple minutes. I'm gonna come to you, and we're gonna apply this Bondo. So since I want to build this area up, it's pretty much all I'm gonna do. Then I'm gonna neatly shape it. I already feel it starting to tack up a little bit. So that's pretty much it. Light shaping. Then we smooth everything out. So it's just a process of doing that everywhere. I'm gonna jump back to where I was, so I have, a couple of minutes. Now I'm gonna wait till it's mostly cured. Hit it with a utility knife. Sharpen up the edges. Had I been paying attention while I was modeling, none of this would have happened. It's always easier to scrape your tools while the stuff is still wet. But as you can see, the ridge is more defined. So I'm just going to keep doing this a couple of times until I get where I'm at. I know a lot of people mix in the cups. I don't. I've always found Bondo to be a much messier process than glazing putty, which is another reason I prefer to use glazing putty. So I know it may look pretty rough, and it is. And that is solely, what do you want to call it? Yeah, my fault. This is the first pass, so I'm just being kind of rough with it. We're going to leave it for a couple hours, let it fully harden, then we're going to come back and see where we're at. This is where we're at. Day's worth of sanding, priming, sanding, glazing putty, sanding, and then priming again. Not too shabby. That's where we're at. Lots of sanding. Then went back and forth, sanding, glazing putty, sanding, Bondo, sanding, glazing putty, sanding, priming, sanding. But in the end, I am super happy with how this turned out. There's a couple spots, like right here, there's a little bit of weirdness. I could take years to just keep sanding and priming and sanding and priming it, but I'm very happy with this. Next, I'm going to prime all the pieces. I think it's going to look super cool. Right? I'm excited about this. I didn't think I would be, right? Because Mandalorians really aren't my thing. I'm not, super, oh my goodness. But look at that. That is such a cool looking helmet. Reminiscent of Boba Fett, reminiscent of Din Djarin, but it's not the same as either. Next, we're on to prime, paint, and finishing. That's going to be a different video. I'm happy with this one. If you do want to see the next one, easiest way to guarantee the algorithm shows you is to like and subscribe, yeah. But that's about it for this one. So I'll see you next time.